In this episode of the Business of E-commerce, I talk with Zee Ali about running a remote team. This is the Business of E-commerce, episode 118. Welcome to the Business of E-commerce, the show that helps e-commerce retailers start, launch, and grow their e-commerce business. I'm your host, Charles Pileski, and I'm here today with Zee Ali. Zee is the founder of Zee Swag, a full-service custom apparel, promotional, merchandising, and fulfillment company. Zee works with brands including Chick-fil-A, Sony, Cricket Wireless, General Mills, and LinkedIn. I asked him on the show today to chat about how he runs a remote team. So, hey Zee, how you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you. I love kind of talking about other folks that have kind of done the whole remote thing. I feel like that's one of those reasons fundamentally why a lot of people get into this business, because it's something that you can run remotely, right? Not like there's a lot of businesses where it's just not possible. But e-commerce is one of the few things that it truly is like completely location independent. So how long have you been running this particular company for?
Almost 10 years.
10 years. Okay. And remote the whole time?
So.
Okay.
Our team isn't enormous. We have two offices currently. People go if they want to go. If they don't, they can work from home. That's up to them. For me, remote is just easier. We accomplish this by providing clear outcomes of each job role. Here's what we're looking to achieve. So you don't measure success by the time that they're clocking in, clocking out. It's by the results themselves. So if you provide clear KPIs and clear outcomes, it makes things a bit easier.
So where are you located first off right now, physically?
Right now I'm sitting in Louisville, Kentucky, and tomorrow morning I will be in Chicago, where our HQ is.
Okay, where's office number 2?
That's in Chicago. That's our flagship headquarters. That's where the company all started.
And then where's the second office?
That is in Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville,
I'm in one of the conference rooms. Yeah.
Oh, okay, very cool. Okay, and about how many employees are both?
10-ish. Say we have like 7 full-timers and we've got like 3 to 5 kind of floating around here and there as we need them. So
yep. Yeah, you have to you got to kind of round when you have that. So let's round around 10, let's say.
Sure.
And so they sometimes work in the office, sometimes work from home, that sort of thing?
Yeah, for the most part, people just work from home. At the office here, I have my assistant with me every day, like Monday through Friday, just because I prefer having someone with me, working with me one-on-one. It's just easier for me to do so. So if I change cities, I'll find someone to just work one-on-one with me. It just makes it easier for me personally, because they're kind of playing a role between some admin stuff, but then heavy on the personal assistant stuff, like make sure we've got everything sorted for the flights tomorrow, who's dropping me off at the airport, how am I getting from O'Hare to the first client meeting and from there to the next. And maybe it's as simple as Uber, but just coordinating and figuring out what needs to happen. And so I prefer having that person in person.
Yep. And now, so how long did the company originally start off like this, or going back 10 years ago? Was it just you and you kind of grew it? Like, how did you decide to even do this in the first place?
Sure. So I started this company on complete accident. So to back up all the way, beyond 10 years, I was working at this place called Classic Residence by Hyatt. So it's a upscale luxury senior retirement home community. It's called a V now. And I was working there throughout high school, and eventually I worked through the ranks, and they gave me a scholarship to go to school. The stipulation was it had to be culinary arts. And so while I was studying there, I had a friend of mine who would always ask me to help him start selling chef coats to the classmates. He came to me because he knew I was always selling something, whether it be candy or music. And I used to sell, not proud of it now, but bootleg, DVDs. And I used to always I was the guy that would unzip their coat and they had all this stuff. I mean, I literally didn't, but at least that was the brand that I had created for myself. And so my friend and I, we started sourcing these chef coats from the flea market. and we would fix them up because these were defective products that didn't pass quality control. So typically, if they don't pass quality control, they end up in a landfill, or if the manufacturers are conscious, they'll end up wholesaling them off at ridiculous pricing to someone who wants to sell items that just can't make it to the retail shelves. And so we would just buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coats at a time, just very small quantities. And then eventually I had a full duffel bag full of coats and I needed help. And I had an assistant going with me, knocking classroom to classroom at my culinary school, selling chef coats. And then we got into chef pants and chef hats and aprons, and kind of that's how it evolved.
Okay, so it really just started off very organically, it sounds like. And there was no, and so now you provide, and you work with some huge brands, kind of read at the intro here, like Sony, Cricket Wireless. So you kind of grew it all the way in the past 10 years to now providing, is it like apparel to like, trying to think, if you go into like a cell phone store sort of thing, that shirt they wear, is that kind of the?
Sure. So essentially, we manufacture culture. So what that means is there are supporting physical pieces that we sell, that we provide to our clients, but every client has a goal in mind. Hey, is it customer acquisition? Is it retention? Is it recouping, those lost clients? How can we do that? What are some really clever ways of doing that? It's maybe building team morale, helping build the culture so they could retain their team members. It's not just retention of lost clients or retention of existing clients, but keeping on board the team that they have. It's very expensive to bring someone on board, and then they leave for a pay raise that's just a few $1,000s more than what you're offering them. And so we create these programs to help solve these different types of problems. Now, a big supporting component of that is the physical pieces. So every brand, every company we work with has a different objective. Some could be trade shows. Hey, we have a trade show we're exhibiting at. What should we do? What should we give out? How should we dress? How do we measure our ROI from this campaign? And so those are a few different things that we help with.
Okay, I see. So how do you feel like remote has like helped you guys grow in comparison to if you were all in one place, or has it? Or do you feel like it's just kind of, it's just part of the culture, but it doesn't really affect the company? Like, how do you feel like it kind of plays into that?
Sure. I think the whole remote thing is a big deal, but I think we're just going to start seeing more and more companies making remote work available for everyone. I already see it now with so many companies doing it. And then the companies that aren't fully on board, they're testing it like, hey, Fridays work from home or Thursdays work from home, and work half a day at the office and work the other half at home on Fridays. For me, I've always started that way. Like, it was just a 1-person, 2-person business. And so like I would just work from home or work from the coffee shop. And it didn't occur to me that I actually needed like physical infrastructure to do everything. Once you have things in place and fulfill, like we do a lot of fulfillment in warehousing, so we do have infrastructure for that. I don't necessarily need to be there. There is a team there that's dedicated to that. So yes, they must be there because they need to be picking, packing, shipping these orders for clients all the time. So what I'm talking about is when you onboard a new client, we like to send out a lot of welcome gifts because we celebrate that win, that commitment that client has now made working with that business. So it could be as simple as sending them a water bottle with a handwritten note. And so we do that. So when we manufacture these products, many times we do ship them directly to the client and let them execute on their campaign that they want to, or we'll integrate it with their CRM and help manage all of that for them. So those, we have partnerships and team members assisting and just managing that team is a bit bigger than 7 or 10 people. That's, Monday through Friday, all they're doing is packing, picking, and shipping products out. Sorry, I'm digressing. What was your question?
No, just kind of how has it benefited the company to be remote? Like, because some folks say it, I've heard people say it's like a negative. Other folks say it's like this positive where they can tap into different resources, different folks that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So I'm just kind of curious where you stand on that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as hiring, I mean, we're looking to bring on a handful of people in this new year. And I've had many people say, hey, I can't work remotely. I must have team and people in the office to keep myself accountable. I need that. I absolutely need that. And I just can't work with them because I can't be in the office with you all the time. I've got a packed schedule. I'm traveling. I've got all this work related stuff. We want team members that can hold themselves accountable. Working from home could be challenging if the environment isn't right. I hear people want to go wash their dishes or clean their house and do these things. That's why you have to have clear outcomes, right? So if you have these outcomes that you've set for these individuals and you have KPIs and they're meeting them, who cares? If you need to go look at your Instagram during the workday for a few minutes, it's okay. I don't believe in micromanaging and standing behind someone's shoulder as they're working in an office environment. We've always been kind of remote. So I don't know. I don't truly know what it's like to put 10 people in a room and lock them up. And
Yeah, but how do you certain jobs are certain KPIs, right? Where it's delivered, kind of the work product and what you're trying to the result. But there's others that are a bit more fuzzy. So on those kind of roles, and even it can be as simple as support tickets, right? You could say you need to answer X number of support tickets a day or whatever that is, but it's almost a bad goal, right? Because then people are just kind of checking the box, answered, go. And that's not even what you want, right? Especially working with some large brands, you want the tickets to be solved correctly. So in a role like that, you don't want that metric of, hey, just answer 30 support tickets a day. It's a silly metric. How do you set those kind of KPIs for that sort of role?
so we follow this business framework called Baldrige. So Baldrige is the US government standard of business excellence. So
how do you spell that?
Baldridge, I believe, Baldrige.
All right.
So Baldrige is adopted by, I'd say, almost every Fortune 500 there is. Now, there's a lot of benefits to Baldrige, but what it allows us is our goal is to empower all our team members, right? And so a part of that is if they're working on support tickets and stuff, we have processes documented in a very mind-numbing way that people should have very little questions to ask to be able to execute upon it. So if there's an issue or an idea or an implementation that needs to happen, there's a system that they're following in order to do it. And if something breaks, because things break all the time, everyone screws stuff up. And so when something goes wrong, we document it, we audit it, we add preventative steps, and then we use tools to actually execute on resolving issues in a very formal way. So these tickets sometimes require a lot of collaboration from the team. And so we have tools that allow us to do all of this together. So it's not always necessarily like, hey, you need to close 10 tickets per day. We don't even have that many issues. So it's not even a dedicated thing. It's more collaborative. Hey, whose account is it? What's the issue? Can back office or admin team help get together and share their ideas on how we can resolve this issue and prevent it from ever happening again?
Okay.
So
yeah, interesting. But how about for the jobs that are a little more undocumentable? For example, generating a new marketing campaign, a little more in the creative side. How do you give someone like a playbook to run with that sort of role?
So I kind of disagree. I think everything can be measurable.
Okay.
All of it. Every single role can be, you can have KPIs for. So if there or campaigns, right? So each job should have a mission and then those clear outcomes defined. So I, in my mind, know, hey, we want to run, we want to start getting aggressive on our SEO efforts. Cool. What does that mean? Does that mean we have to start cranking out tons of content? Does that mean we need our developers to work on the technical SEO part of it? What does that look like? How many articles are we going to crank out? How many? Like, we break everything down very granularly. So yeah, I see what you're asking. I guess I don't have anything. Heck, I'll be honest, I don't even have every single role broken down, but I do know that we're at max capacity and we're looking to hire. So even for me, it's something that I'm trying to work on and refine and build. Only 2 years ago, we started working on these outcome sheets, and I wish I had started way before.
Yeah, I talk to folks all the time that do this, and it's always, then you almost need a process to document the process, like this, like some sort of process to actually help grow these documents, right? And the documents define the process. So it's very like meta when you start looking at it that way. Because then at a certain point, you need the team to help write the documents for themselves, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so we have some non-negotiables. I can pull this up for you on my computer, and I can go through a few of these. So upon hiring, we have non-negotiables. Doesn't sound so nice or soft, but
And these are non-negotiables for their role, right? So basically,
these are
if you
non-negotiables for all team members across the board, regardless of role.
okay, so organization-wide, if you work here, you must do X.
Yeah, you could also call it like a culture guide, I guess, a rule. It's just it's something that I think is just super critical for all team members to follow. Now, some of these things, as I read them, you'll be like, "Oh, it's common sense," but I don't believe common sense exists. There's no such thing. You have to train someone on doing it. One of my favorite things I love to do during interviews is I like to ask people if they can walk me through step by step how they make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and
Why
to
is
get
that?
as detailed as possible, because I want to see how they think through the process of doing that. What does that sound like? I want to see how well they can articulate that process. I want to see how many steps they're omitting. I've never had one person get as granular as I've asked them to be in it. And so we want to be super granular in our processes, because what if you die tomorrow? I might die tomorrow. I hope not. I could. Does that mean my company closes? So a part of Baldridge is that no one should be dependent on another person. No team member should be hoarding information. That's why we have these non-negotiables. So I'll go through a few of these. So commitment to excellence, willingness to actively document and improve the policies, procedures, and training methods of the work performed. Next one, willingness to actively report issues and ideas that can improve ZSwag. Willingness to actively resolve and implement ideas. Willingness to help develop and implement our strategic plan. Willingness to have a learning plan. Willingness to accurately measure and report progress. Willingness to promote consistent product, service quality, and client satisfaction. And I'll go over one more, which is super important. Willingness to help coach, mentor, and cross-train other team members in performing their process.
Why'd you say that's the important one right there, or the most important?
I think they're all important, but I just hear so many horror stories of, hey, I've got this secret sauce, and once I leave, I'm taking it with me, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You can do that somewhere else, not here.
Yeah, it definitely, and it happens. It's very, you don't know what's happening, but information does get siloed, right? So it's something that unless you have that baked into the culture of documenting it, it does start to just become, hey, go ask, Kevin over there, and he knows how to do X. And he just becomes like the X guy, and that's every time you need that, you ask him. But when he's out sick, everyone kind of just sits around and waits for Kevin to come back.
They crumble, they panic, they don't know how to execute on his steps, on his process, because it's not there, it's not documented, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I feel like that the documentation is the one thing about remote that to make it work, you almost have to document processes, just because you're not all sitting in the same office. You can't just go tap, Kevin on the shoulder. So you're almost like forced to do this, and that makes it just a much more resilient company. Just by default,
and also if someone wants to get promoted, it's pretty simple. Perform and execute on all of your objectives on your task, complete your mission, right, with excellence, and have everything so well documented that I could hire someone else and promote you, and they could just follow your process and systems because they're so well done.
Yeah, it definitely creates one of those the ability to know where you're at and have like a scoreboard of, if you're trying to do X and you're trying to get through some measurable outcome, you at least know where you are, right? Did you get 80% of the way there or 10? Because I've had folks where you kind of hire someone before, and they sometimes, unless you define it ahead of time, they don't know. So sometimes they think they're doing great, and you're looking going, this isn't so great. Like, and then you have to have that like tough discussion, that sort of thing, just because the expectations weren't set ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, it's continuous improvement. I don't expect the process to be perfect. So I'm pretty new to Louisville, have only been down here. I'm back and forth between Chicago and here, but been here maybe 6 months. And I have an assistant here, and I told her, hey, can you please update your processes for when I'm traveling, because I need someone to drop me off tomorrow morning to the airport. So I'm like, that's probably not in your process because you haven't scheduled it. I don't have a pickup on my calendar here. Can we get that in there? So now she's updated it. And so whatever else, it's not like that. Obviously, I could Uber it or cab it, take a cab. It's not a huge deal, but I want the process to be super refined. I want it to be complete as it could be. And then the next trip will be better and the next trip will be even better. And it'll just be super smooth. So maybe if I'm staying at a hotel and I want healthy food, so it's waiting there for me, right? So that's a part of the process, calling the hotel, calling TaskRabbit, having someone pick up some fruits and nuts and some snacks and having it there at my hotel room or at check-ins for me to grab. So you're constantly improving. That's just one example.
I like that. Yeah, it definitely, and it feels like it dovetails very well with the whole remote, and you're not all working at the same time. So it creates less like coupling on each interdependencies amongst the team. And you can definitely see that being all around just a good thing for the company, even if you were in the same office. But being a remote team, you kind of are forced to do that. One thing you mentioned before the show, I wanted to kind of dig into, that was interesting. You said you live out of a duffel bag. I found that kind of interesting.
Sure.
Can you tell me more about that one?
So I have a home. I have a beautiful home.
So you're not
I go to
homeless.
bed in my. No, not at all. So a few years ago, I decided my lease was ending, and I was living in a beautiful high rise in Chicago, right on like Michigan Avenue. And as a kid, my dream was to always live in the tall skyscrapers because it was a sign of being successful and having it all. And that was the dream. And so once I lived there for a few years, I realized that I wasn't really happy. It was fun and exciting, but I was a bit miserable. I don't know. It didn't fulfill me like the way I thought it would. And so the lease was ending. I didn't really have a plan. I wasn't sure where I was going to move. I was looking at a bunch of places, but still hadn't made a decision. So I ended up just donating most of my possessions, but my personal stuff, I gave most of it away, and I left Chicago with 3 bags, not one, but 3. I had like 2 backpacks and a duffel bag. And I ended up going to Indiana first. I was calling random friends, hey, I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but can I come crash? Those weren't the exact words.
How many years ago was this?
I was like, I want to come probably 2-3 years ago.
Okay, so the company had been running for a while at that point. So the company's up and doing its thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was still working. It was just by myself wherever I was. And so I went down to Indiana, Atlanta, New York. I was just kind of all over the place a little bit. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I had told myself the story that I was punishing myself. So is that punishment or is that a vacation? Externally, it sounded like the dream. My friends were like, this is amazing. I'd love to be able to do all this stuff. And I kind of hyped up the story too. So I'm a bit guilty there. And this is probably like reflecting now, I can tell you it was more of a punishment than a vacation because I hadn't hit certain milestones that I wanted to hit. And as much as I've wanted to hit those, I don't think I ever truly put my foot down on the gas pedal to get them. But I still wanted to punish myself. So when we do good, we want to reward ourselves and
are we talking business milestones, like certain revenue goals, that sort of thing?
Yeah, business milestones. And so I hadn't hit them. And so I was just very frustrated and upset. And so I told myself I didn't deserve a home. And so yes, I didn't like live on the streets or anything, but I had condensed all that stuff that I had into 3 bags, which is really, really hard considering I had a lot of stuff. I'm in the merchandising promotional space. We have tons of stuff. And so I got down to 3 bags, but along the journey, I ended up tossing 2 of them and ended up settling with 1 bag because as time went on, I realized that these physical possessions didn't really do much for me at all. In fact, I own 1 pair of jeans. I have 1 pair of workout shoes. I've bought a couple suits and things now because I need them for conferences and work. But I'd say the core of my possessions is in 1 bag. So when I do laundry, it goes back into that bag. Sure, I have a side table and I have a closet, but I put it in it. The suits go in the closet. Everything else goes into the bag. And it works for me. There's less clutter in my head and in my life.
So do you have a permanent kind of home base now, or are you still kind of,
I do. Yeah, yeah. I have a lease and all that stuff. Yeah, office leases, apartment lease. I've got all of it.
but you still choose to live out of the bag sort of thing?
I choose to, yeah, put all my possessions into my bag.
Okay. It's very, the Netflix documentary, what is it? The Minimalist?
Yeah,
Sounds
it's a
very
great
much,
one.
yeah, sounds very much like that. Is that something you kind of follow?
I mean, try to buy what I need. If I need it, it's going to make a difference. If it's going to save me time, money, yes, I will buy it.
And do you feel like that's kind of helped you with business, or is that kind of just something almost like a thing on the side, or do you feel like that has any effect on the business itself?
I mean, I think if you declutter, you're going to just be more successful. You have more of a clear mind. I think Steve Jobs, when he had left Apple or was fired from Apple, I think when he went to his next company, Next, I think it was called, um, he made everyone take off. Like the room was all white. It was painted white because he just wanted clarity. He wanted it to be so plain and clutter free. And so I think that by tossing out or donating, getting rid of the things that you don't use, if you don't use it for 90 days or 4 months, 6 months, get rid of it. Like you don't need it.
Yeah, interesting. Have you done any kind of international travel, or has it all kind of been domestic, where you kind of moving around?
So I aim to do 3 countries a year. I've kind of turned it down recently because I really want to just double down and focus on my business. And there are challenges while working and being remote. You need a lot of discipline for that. But I've got one trip this year, one or two trips this year scheduled for international.
Hmm. That kind of discipline and like those routines, how do you maintain that when when you do this whole moving around, right? Like if you're waking up in a different city every couple of weeks, how do you the gym and healthy eating and all these sort of things, like how do you maintain any sort of structure when you're kind of moving around?
Sure. So my secret weapon is this app called Strides.
Strides. Okay.
Another one is called Streaks. I like using Strides because they have really great UI and UX. But basically, it's got my morning routine, my evening routine, and anything that I want to build a habit of. So although I know what I need to do, I like checking the boxes, and I like knowing I completed it. But it's not just checking the boxes; it's being present as I'm completing them. So I'm not doing what's on in the routine just to hurry up and get rid of it so I can say I did it. It's being really mindful and present and self-aware as I'm completing them to make progress in those different areas.
What's some examples of some sort of streaks goals you've set?
Sure. So I learned something from this program called Warrior, and it was led by this gentleman named Russ Perry. He's the founder of Design Pickle. And so I did a 2-day workshop, I believe a year ago, and it was life-changing. And I don't say that like it was genuinely life-changing. So they had taught us a concept called Core 4. And I'll do the best I can to explain this, but you can do more research online and nail it down. So here was my takeaway. So it's called Core 4 because there's 4 areas of life: your business, your body, your being, and your balance. And it's gamified. So the goal is to get 1 point in each of these areas by 8 a.m., not no later than 10 a.m., 7 days a week, and have no compromise in these. So there's 2 objectives you must complete in each of these categories. So I'll just go through them in a random order. So for business, it's discovery. It means go learn something, read a book, take an online course, watch a YouTube video that's educational. And then the second part is teach it to someone. So teach one specific thing that you've learned from that specific training to someone. So that's half a point for each. So that's 1 point there for business. For body, it's sweat and fuel. So sweat. Work out for 5 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, whatever you want to do, just sweat. So the goal is it's just to build habits. So if you can work out for 20 minutes, do it. If you can do it for an hour, do it, right? Just get in the habit of building these streaks or strides in order to build momentum. And over time, you'll improve upon those, and maybe the duration will get better. You'll learn how to manage your time better. And so the fuel portion it's a green drink, a green smoothie. So that covers the body area. Now, the being is meditating followed up by journaling. Journaling, using a pen on a physical notebook. So that's one point together. And then the last one is balance. So this is your wife, girlfriend, your children, your family. And so the best way to explain this is when we go to the bank and if there's no money and we withdraw it, we'll get penalized, we'll get fees, we'll have a lot of financial consequences. So you should look at it the same way with your family. So the goal is to make intentional love deposits in this love bank, you can call it. And the goal is to fill up that love bank with their love language. So if they love affirmations or whatever it is that you fuel, that you make the deposits into their love bank so that when you're traveling with the boys or you're doing what you're doing away from them, that you have available deposits to withdraw from. So that entire thing is it's core four. So that's kind of what I've taken away. And so I'll pull up my strides and I can tell you, I've added a little bit more to mine. So I definitely have the journaling, affirmations, review my goals, my vision board, take my vitamins, read, teach, drink a gallon of water I've got with me here, food journal. I do the love deposits to my parents. I try to call them almost every day if I can, floss. So there's just a bunch of things on here and you can customize it to what you want.
Very cool. Yeah, I think having these written goals helps, right? Like, I think some people, they say, we're talking right now, right after the new year, I'm going to floss more or go to the gym more, or whatever that is. But having it kind of mapped out, these are like literally drink a green drink. Like it's not just like eat healthier. It's like oddly specific on like every day I will do this, like this specific drink. I think that really helps. It helps for you to measure it, right? Because just these like big lofty goals, like work out more, you don't really know if you hit that goal. It's very nebulous. Versus if you didn't drink a green drink, like you got to check the box, you don't. There's no half checked on that one.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. That definitely, and it sounds like that sort of thing helps you. It's stuff you can do no matter what, right? No matter where you are. So even if you are remote, if you're kind of moving around, if you're in a hotel, you can still journal, right? That's something that very non-location dependent. And that kind of probably helps you keep this. This is a very specific routine that you can do anywhere, it sounds like. Is that kind of how you?
Yeah, I mean, no matter where you are, you can do, like this morning, I was really busy. I'm a little anxious. I'm traveling like the rest of this month. It's quite hectic. So I did like 100 squats, push-ups, and a bunch of stuff in my apartment. I did not go to the gym like I had planned to. So it's okay. I still got a workout in.
Very cool. All right. I think that helps. I like, I definitely like, it seems like you have a lot of routine and written formulas. And that helps. You can measure it. You know where you are. You know, hey, you can, what is it? What gets measured gets managed is kind of the, and I think that's
because without the routines, the goals are much more challenging. You need the habits, the routines in order to execute on everything else. So if you don't take care of these areas, essentially it makes it harder for you to execute on whatever your goals and your plans are. So the structure really makes things easier because I feel better because I've worked out. I get a boost from that green drink. And I've taken care of my mental health, right? Meditation is like exercise for the brain. So if you take care of these areas, essentially it will carry over like in your day, in your week, in your life.
Very cool. Before I let you go, anything you kind of working on right now you want to plug? Anything or anywhere people can find you? More information about you?
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. It's just my name, Zee Ali. If you guys are looking for any sort of branded merchandising to help grow your brand, to really stay top of mind, I'll share one really good example. So I'm down here, I'm in Louisville, and the Louisville Slugger Factory, the baseball bats, they're all made here. And so a cool promotional campaign, this is a really good example, is if, let's say we have a list of clients we want to either work with and get our foot in the door with, or maybe there's a list of some awesome clients maybe we lost because that happens. People lose clients. And so a campaign we're running right now is we're mailing out these awesome, they're like 18, 20-inch baseball bats. They're small enough where we're going to laser etch the client's logo on them, our prospect or our client's logo on them, and then we're going to engrave their name on the bat itself. And the letter with it will say something along the lines of, hey, if you give us an opportunity, we'll, to get at bat, we're going to hit a home run. It's, you have to come up with some witty copy with it, but things like that leave a big impression, and they're not going to toss something away that has their name on it, right? With their logo on it. And it's just something unique. And so there's a lot of different ways to utilize products to get a massive return on your investment. Most people just don't know how to do that. And so that's where we come in and we help people. So
very cool. Yeah, that's one of those things where if you get that, you kind of put it in your office up on the wall, and when people come in, they see it. So stuff like that, those are the best promos, right? Because you don't, like you said, you don't just toss it in the bin and, hey, another mug with someone's logo on it. This is something you're actually going to hang up and keep around. So that's very cool. So I will link to all that in the show notes, and appreciate you coming on. It was great chatting.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.